Hi, I'm Reyyan'ın, postgraduate researcher in London in international relations. I also have a master's in museum studies. So, museums and politics have kind of been my thing for a while. I decided to start this series because I wanted to talk about some of the ideas I work within my research in a way that's hopefully easy to follow. This is the first video of the Politics of Museums playlist. If that sounds interesting to you, please stick around. Think about the last time you walked into a museum. Chances are, without anyone telling you to, you slowed down, you lowered your voice, you moved carefully, almost reverently, through the rooms. Nobody instructed you to behave that way. There were no signs, speak quietly or walk slowly, and yet you did. That's not a coincidence, and in this video I want to explain why. Museums are often presented to us as natural spaces, places that simply preserve and display the past. But scholars in museum studies and cultural theory have argued quite convincingly that museums are anything but natural. They are institutions that shape how we think, what we value, and how we understand ourselves as citizens. In other words, museums are instruments of power, and they always have been. The cultural theorist Tony Bennett was one of the first to systematically argue this. He introduced the concept of the exhibitionary complex, the idea that museums, alongside exhibitions and department stores, formed a network of institutions designed to display both objects and people to one another. Unlike prison, which hides its subject, the museums put them on show, and in doing so, it teaches them how to behave, how to look, how to move, how to conduct themselves as orderly, self-regulating citizens. Bennett gives us a striking historical example. In the 19th century, institutions like Victorian Albert museums began opening their doors in the evening specifically, so that working class people could attend. This sounds progressive, but Bennett's reading is more unsettling. The state wasn't simply being generous, it was using culture to transform a potentially disruptive population into a disciplined and educated people. Power, in other words, doesn't always work through force. Sometimes it works through culture. Secondly, Eilean Hooper-Greenhill takes this further by examining how museums function as what she calls knowledge regimes. Museums don't simply store knowledge, they decide what counts as knowledge in the first place. Curators, which behind the scenes decide what objects are significant, how they are labeled, and what story they tell. Visitors then encounter this pre-constructed knowledge as if it were the truth. Even the physical space of museums is part of this structure. The route you walk, the height of display cases, the lighting, all of these shape your experience in ways you may never consciously notice. The museum, Hooper-Greenhill argues, discipline both the body and the mind. Carol Duncan, on the other hand, offers perhaps the most vivid account of what happens when we enter a museum. She argues that art museums function like ritual spaces, and visiting them is a kind of performance. Think about the typical art museum. The grand staircase, the imposing entrance, the hushed atmosphere. These architectural choices are not accidental. They create a script and visitors follow it, moving slowly, speaking softly, and standing at a respectful distance from the works. Duncan calls this a civic ritual, one that produces a sense of shared cultural identity. But she also points out that this ritual is not accessible equally to everyone. Those who have already possessed cultural capital, who have been taught how to read art, how to behave in elite spaces, perform it far more comfortably than those who haven't. The museum then doesn't simply welcome everyone equally. It rewards those who already know the rules. So, why do you whisper in museums? Because the museum teaches you to. Through its architecture, its displays, its organization of knowledge, rituals, its stages, the museum quietly instructs you in how to be a certain kind of person. To remember, Bennett shows us this happens through visibility and order. Hooper-Greenhill through the authority of expert knowledge. Duncan through embodied rituals. Together, they make a powerful case. The museum is not a passive container of culture. It is an active producer of it. None of this means the museums are simply bad institutions, but it does mean they deserve to be looked at critically, not just through the glass of a display case, but at the institution itself. So next time you walk into a museum, maybe think twice about why you are whispering. And that is exactly what this series is about. In the next video, we will ask whose story does the museum tell and whose story does it live out? Comments, questions, disagreements, all welcome. But if you like this video, please press a like button and subscribe my YouTube channel. And yeah, see you soon. Bye!